As her hands quivered against her enlarged belly, Jessa Duggar rested on the sterile hospital bed. The agony in her spirit overshadowed the physical agony, and she breathed in small breaths. Pale and silent, Ben Seewald stood by her side. He gripped hers firmly, maybe too firmly, but she showed no reaction. The hold was crucial for her. Something had to be there to keep her from slipping into the abyss of despair that was about to consume her. Only a short while ago, they were giggling as they drove to the hospital. Ben had teased her about the intensity of their baby's kicks and how fierce this one would be. A big smile spread across Jessa's face as she radiated with that comforting maternal light. They were described as a little fighter by her. However, tension had subsided. No one could detect a pulse. She couldn't shake the doctor's words, which echoed like a cruel lullaby. "I'm so sorry. There's no heartbeat." In the beginning, Jessa thought it was her fault. Machines can't be trusted. A number of screens are flashing. The infants are curled up in a ball. However, the truth had already been disclosed by the silence, especially the stifling silence, long before the doctor had even spoken. As he flopped down onto the chair next to her, Ben clutched his face with his hands and his shoulders trembled. Before now, no one had ever seen him in such a way. Ben, who was dependable and strong, was crushed. As if in a daze, Jessa gazed up at the ceiling. Could this be seen as a type of revenge? Perhaps an examination? Is this an unjust twist of fate? Spurgeon, Henry, Ivy, and Fern were among the other relatives who stayed at home with their grandma, Michelle. They were looking forward to the arrival of their new sibling with great anticipation. Ivy made a card with hearts drawn with crayons and glitter and the words, "Welcome, baby," on it. "You are already much loved by us." How much would they elaborate on this? The hours went by. The passage of time was distorted and contorted. It was a really long labor. The fact that the soul that her body was intended to transmit had already passed away was a mystery to her body. It clung to the optimistic belief that perhaps, just possibly, everything was all right. It was not the case. The baby was delivered at 3:14 in the morning. It was a little yet adorable baby. A young male. He was given the name River Matthew Seewald by them. While Ben tenderly held him, tears began to roll down his face and onto the blanket that was covering the infant. A haze of her own tears obscured Jessa's vision as she watched. He was born with a nose and lips that were remarkably similar to those of Spurgeon, and he had the same delicate lips. River, on the other hand, would never open his eyes. Never in his life did he ever laugh, cry, or refer to her as Mama. His life was a whisper that was never given the opportunity to sing. It was a pleasant experience. Way too kind. Their compassion was like sharp knives wrapped in satin. It cut deeper than expected. It was offered by one of them to snap a picture of the family. Jessa was hesitant, but Ben gave a slight nod. That a photograph might be the sole evidence of their existence that they would ever have was something that they had learned from other people who had traveled this wretched route. With tears in their eyes, they smiled. After wrapping River in a gentle blue blanket, Jessa cuddled him against her chest and put him in her arms. For a moment, he was friendly, warmth emanating from her. On the other hand, he gradually and painfully began to chill down. After returning home, the children were unable to comprehend. Ivy had a habit of asking her mother, "Where is the baby?" Despite Jessa's best efforts, her voice was so broken that it shattered into 1,000 pieces. Baby River had to go to heaven, Ben muttered as he carefully lifted up Ivy and continued to hold her. "But why?" she inquired in a childlike manner. He was unable to provide a response. Jessa was lying in bed that night, her arms aching from the emptiness that she felt. Her breast milk had arrived. It was as if her body was prepared to nourish a child that was not present. Betrayal of the cruelest kind. As she shouted into the pillow, she pressed it to her chest and continued to do so until her voice finally broke. In the days that followed, their house was adorned with flowers, casseroles, and prayers that were whispered throughout the house. Both Michelle and Jim Bob shed tears in public. After arriving, Jill only sat next to Jessa for a number of hours while holding her hand. It was a large family for the Duggars. It is loud. In many cases, divisive. However, at those times of silence and suffering, they were nothing more than family. To put it simply, just people with broken hearts keeping each other together. Ben was unable to gaze at the preschool room. He then left the door closed once he had closed it. All of the items, including the pacifiers, the books, and the small onesies, were left untouched. At times, Jessa would be seen standing outside the door with her hand on the knob, contemplating whether or not she should enter. Occasionally, she did it. Most of the time, she did not. The weeks went by. The world continued to progress. However, Jessa did not. The majority of the time, she found herself awake at 2 in the morning, scrolling through support groups for baby loss and reading the accounts of strangers who had experienced the same nightmare. She kept a journal. River was the recipient of her letters. It was true in you. You have been adored. You were important. On certain days, she felt angry not only with God, but also with herself and the unfairness of everything. On other days, she simply experienced a numbing sensation. Even Ben had a hard time. He lowered his voice less. Later, he went to work. He gave less smiles. They engaged in a fight once. A disagreement about the laundry that escalated into tears and slamming doors was a minor altercation. Bereavement is a harsh companion that can wedge itself between even the hearts of those who are closest to you. However, they ended up finding each other once more one night. While she was seated on the floor of the kitchen, Jessa was quietly crying. Ben got down on his knees next to her, grabbed her face in his hands, and murmured, "I miss him too." They held to one another tightly. Together, two pieces that have been fractured are gently mending. During the memorial service for River, which was held in their backyard beneath the oak tree, they held the event. There is a little white box. An arrangement of flowers in a bed. It was Ivy who placed her card next to it. The verse from Psalm 34:18 that Ben read out loud was as follows. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." She was unable to communicate. Simply putting her palm on her chest and whispering, "I'll carry you forever." She did this simple gesture. The months went by. Never once did they get over it. Nevertheless, they started to carry the weight with less difficulty. On one occasion, Spurgeon created a drawing. A picture of the family, including the mother, the father, the children, and a newborn floating in the skies. "That lady is River," he remarked. In spite of her sorrow, Jessa grinned. "It is true. It's River to you. There is no end to grief. Changes occur in it." Jessa was left with a wound that would never be completely healed as a result of River's passing. However, as a result of that suffering, a new empathy emerged. Power that is new. She started writing again. To verbalize. To assist other people who have also lost babies. It was not out of sympathy that she told River's story. Rather, it was out of solidarity. Since being silent is painful. On the other hand, sharing sadness is therapeutic. The nursery eventually reopened its doors. It evolved into a serene space for contemplation, writing in a journal, and praying. The photograph of River was positioned there, and his minuscule imprint, a framed version of Ivy's glitter card. In the course of one evening, Ben encircled Jessa with his arm while they were both viewing the sunset. In a low voice, she inquired, "Do you think he might see us?" Wet in the eyes, Ben stared up at the golden sky above him. "I really hope so." The two of them sat in silence, listening to the sound of the wind rustling the leaves of the trees. It was almost as if River was muttering, "I'm with you."